voice. Only 7% are the words. That says real clearly, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. I want you to think about that when you're thinking about your reaction. Am I getting the reaction that I want? And if you just modify, a lot of times if you just modify, you don't even have to know what words to say sometimes. You can say the wrong words, but have the right body language and the right tone of voice, and it's going to be received a lot better. Because you can take a loving message and mess up the body language and tone of voice and distort the whole message. Because I could come up to you and say, I love you. And what did that sound like? It sounds more like I hate you, right? The next question. How has your anger affected your relationships? How has your anger affected your relationships? Has it destroyed them? Has it kept distance there? Has it caused, a canyon of resentment? Does anger have to be a bad thing in a relationship? And the answer is no, as long as it's done appropriately. When you can calmly come out and say, I'm angry with you. I didn't appreciate how you said that, or that I'm angry with you. You said you were going to help me on that project yesterday and you never showed up. Saying it in a calm fashion versus screaming at them. Or passively just pouting. Also, how has anger affected your life? Either the way you're dealing with it or not dealing with it. How has it affected your life? And actually, before I get on to some more techniques, I want to tell you a story. Because I think a lot of times people get discouraged with this anger management type process because it takes a while to develop. And I want you to be patient with you guys. So I want you to understand how to measure your progress as you apply these techniques that we're talking about today. And one of the best ways to teach you is to tell you this story about a guy that I met many years ago in therapy. I used to work at an inpatient psychiatric facility, and my job was to teach people how to get their life back on track in the shortest amount of time possible, but more importantly, show them how to keep it that way. And people who came to this place came in crisis situations. Well, there was this one man who was admitted out there having anxiety attacks. And actually, I'll back up and tell you a story a little bit further. There was this man, he was around 45 years old. He was a man's man in that he was a pretty tough guy. Kind of had a chip on his shoulder. He was tough. He was a supervisor of a large manufacturing plant, supervised a lot of employees. He was very good at what he did, but it was a very stressful job. And what he would do is he would bring the stress of that job home with him every day. And he would basically come home to his wife and children in a grumpy mood and take the stress of his day out on them. He was just mean, said mean things to them, very abrupt, cold, leave me alone. And so what he would do to help him relax and unwind every evening is he would drink 6 to 12 beers. He said that helped him relax, but his wife and children said he only got meaner and harder to be around. And this had gone on for years. This is how this man had always dealt with stress his adult life. He learned it from his father because his father did the same thing as his grandfather did. So he's carrying on the family tradition. But it's destroying his family. Well, as a result of him ineffectively dealing with his anger, he started having anxiety attacks. Now, I don't know if any of y'all have ever had an anxiety attack, but it's one of the scariest things you can go through. You literally think you're dying because the symptoms of an anxiety attack are the same as that of a heart attack. People go to the emergency rooms every day thinking they're having a heart attack when in fact it's anxiety related. And so this tough guy started having these anxiety attacks. And when he realized they weren't going away and they seemed to be becoming more frequent and more intense, he went and saw his doctor. Thought it was his heart. Doctor checked him out and he said, there's nothing wrong with your heart. He said, this is stress related. He said, I suggest you see a psychiatrist. Guy initially refused. I'm not going to see a psychiatrist. No way. But they continue. The anxiety attacks continue, so in a state of brokenness and desperation, he finally went and saw a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist said, I can help you, but you're going to have to come to the inpatient treatment center where I was working. And as soon as the guy arrived there, he said, I'm not doing this. This is not for me. I'm out of here. So he immediately the next morning called his wife up and said to come get him. Well, the wife did some of her own psychology on him. She said, well, I can't get down there till late this evening. I've got a lot of things going on. And so this guy came into the classes where we teach things like, where we were teaching techniques like what I'm covering today, and he would come into the group therapies where he had a chance to talk out some of these things that had been bothering him. And after he sat in on a few of these groups, he called his wife back and said, never mind. He said, I'm going to stay. He realized, I need to change. I don't like the way my life is going. And while this guy stayed in treatment, he was like the model patient. He read everything he could get his hands on, fully participated in every class and group. He just got a ton out of it. And you could see a change in this guy's eyes, his whole expression, as he had realized there is a better way, and I'm choosing this path that leads towards peace of mind. And when he was discharged from the treatment center, he was referred to my outpatient office where I was to see him once a week and kind of watch him for a while, make sure he didn't relapse back into anxiety, and keep teaching him the techniques he needed so he could continue on and live happily ever after. Well, the 4th session at my outpatient office, so from the beginning when we first started seeking treatment to this point, it had been somewhere around 6 weeks. And this guy had been doing extremely well. Every week he was coming and bragging about how much better what he was doing. His wife was happy. Well, on this 6th week, which was his 4th outpatient session with me, he shows up totally depressed, face hanging down the ground, all discouraged. And I said, what's up? And he said, man, I've blown it. So what are you talking about? He said, the other day I was doing something with one of my sons, and my son said something smart aleck, and he said I said something to put my son in his place and remind him I was boss. And I cut him to the quick. He said, man, I'm right back to where I started. But I want you to know I didn't hear it that way, and his wife and children weren't seeing it that way either. Because here we have a man who had basically been giving his wife and children hell every day for years. Had just gone a period of 6 weeks with only one episode of losing his temper. So I saw that as a whole bunch of progress. And the reason I'm telling you this is my goal for you is not that you never ever get angry ever again. Theoretically, that is possible. But we are human, and we're going to be sensitive sometimes. Sometimes we're not going to manage our stress like we should. You're going to blow it from time to time. But here's how you want to look at it, is that the frequency of how often you were getting angry, that decreases over time, and the intensity decreases. So you're not getting angry as often nor as badly. That's how I want you to measure your progress. I would like to tell you guys I have unshakable peace of mind. My wife and children will tell you, well, he'll blow a gasket from time to time, but it's more of a rarity now, where it used to be an all-the-time occurrence in my life. But ultimately, I know that is the goal that I'm striving for, is to have unshakable peace of mind, and I believe I'm going to achieve it, especially when I stop and look back on where I used to be. Because I had a horrible temper. So I just want y'all to know that in terms of how to measure your progress. Be patient with yourself in this process. Also, a good